Last night I was able to see the new film Queen of the Ring. This is a sports biopic about the start of women's professional wrestling, where back 100 years ago, it was illegal for two women to wrestle for entertain as a sport. And so it's kind of telling the story following the journey of specifically of Mildred Burke, but many, many other foundational figures in the start of women's professional wrestling and professional wrestling in general. But her journey as a single mother that just wanted to wrestle, and how she had to wrestle men, and how that slowly turned into them lobbying to be able to make women's wrestling legal in various different states. And then the complexities that came along with where she kind of had a business marriage with her husband, who is a very shady guy. One of the things that was very interesting about this film to me is that it's actually directed by Ash Avildsen, who is the son of the director of Rocky and the Karate Kid. So his dad directed not just two of my favorite movies of all time, but two of the all-time great sports movies of all time. So he comes along and kind of tackles that same genre. Very different type of story, where those ones are kind of more a window of time of fictional characters, underdog stories, clear mentor figures and things like that. This is a biopic that covers about 20 years' time in the course of the film. And so very different types of films. It's not like he's trying to copy his father, but it is interesting to see a son tackle a genre where the father is, could be argued, the top director of that genre of all time. And that to me was one of the reasons I was very interested in checking it out. Beyond that, if you just kind of look at the cast, it's just jam-packed with familiar faces, that even the kind of the way that it came across my path wasn't because of the marketing or even because they emailed me. It's because Deborah Ann Wolf, Karen Page from Daredevil, posted about it on her Instagram page. And I was like, what's this? She's doing a wrestling movie. And then you realize that it's Felicity from Arrow is the star as Mildred Burke. So I was like, oh, I don't think I've seen Felicity in anything else, and Karen Page is getting some work. And then I went to go check out who's in it. And it's Walton Goggins, Josh Lucas, Martin Cove, and you just kind of keep on going. There's all of these familiar faces that kind of show up in it. So it just made me very curious to check it out for all of the obvious reasons. And for me, I thought it was a solid sports biopic that finds an interesting window of time, like an interesting thing that actually happened, and takes us on that journey. That there's things that you just kind of take for granted now that we have sporting events and there's men's sports, women's sports, things like that. And just like this simple reality that it was illegal for two women to wrestle in 1935 is kind of interesting. And what would it take just to make it legal? What would it take to make that happen? And you kind of follow the journey of the corruption, the people in power, and everything that they did kind of related to that. And so just there's a lot of it covers a lot of time. There's a lot in there. It's a long movie. Like when I first looked at the runtime, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. Why is this movie so long? And even as we were watching it, like I was enjoying it enough, but I, paused it at one point in time and realized we're only about halfway through the film. I was like, what else are they going to do here? Like, I don't understand what's the rest of this film. But there actually was enough like stuff of drama. And there was this very bizarre marriage between the two central figures of the story that led to all sorts of business trouble and fallout and complexity that at the point in time where I was like, it feels like we should have like 20 minutes left. How's there another hour? And then that other hour happens and you go, oh yeah, like you had enough interesting stuff here to justify all of this, to the extent that like I was thinking maybe it would have worked even better as a mini series where you can like look at each kind of window of their lives, the starting phase, the growth phase, that it feels like you could do 4, 5, 6 episodes out of this to even fully unpack it. But even in its present form, I thought that it worked, that it moved at a brisk pace of every time you'd set up place where she's an underdog and she overcomes something, then there's that next level of complexity and expanding what they're doing and everything like that. And it kept having a series of victories, setbacks, and a new conflict all the way up until the end of the film. And it, in particular, with the Josh Lucas character, Billy Wolf, a real person that did exist, it does, what it does nicely is keep kind of doing this back and forth with how bad of a guy is he? Like, how corrupt is he? How big of a jerk is he? And how much of it is a character flaw? How much of it, and it keeps pulling you along long enough and developing your hatred for him and earning that hatred while also being like, but there's other stuff he did. He did a lot here that was valuable. And that's the kind of the complexity of the person. Made it interesting. Just on some of the, kind of on a performance level, just seeing, Felicity from Arrow. I watched her on that show for 150 episodes or something like that, and she's playing someone totally different in a different time frame. And so sometimes it simply helps. In her case, she's so known for the glasses, so just taking the glasses off, have her hit the gym for a long time. So like the whole movie, she's doing this and she's showing off her biceps and stuff, and in sports bikinis, stuff like that. And so she physically looks very different, and quite a few years have passed, so she looks like a different person. But beyond that, just the performance, she transforms into this single mother that loves sports, that has an accent, and I bought into it. Like, it was pretty cool to see a situation of someone that you just know them from this one role on a TV show where they're the fourth most important, and then later seasons, I guess, second most important, though she shouldn't have been. And then step into something else where she gets to be the lead, and she put in the work, and I thought she did a great job with it. But I kind of even like, Deborah Ann Wolf, Karen Page from Daredevil, she's prominent in a good bit of the film, but she's not like super major of a character. So she's kind of these little moments. There's this whole entourage of female wrestlers, and she's on that for a long time. She's very much a part of that. And once again, I've seen her on Daredevil, seen her on Punisher a lot, and it's a distinct character. And over here, different personality, different energy, moves differently. And so, like, just kind of cool to see people that are so known for these TV shows. Like, when you see someone in a TV show, you really get used to them in one zone, in one mode, and they did it differently. But as I mentioned before, it's like a pretty, like, not necessarily star-studded cast, but actor-studded cast. There's a lot of faces in here where it's like, oh, cool. And so a movie that, like, I don't know what its budget, it doesn't feel like it has a big budget here. It doesn't seem like it's getting big distribution, but a film that I think, like, over-delivers from what you expect from a film that feels kind of very small in its marketing and everything like that. Like, I haven't seen much of anything about it outside of like Instagram posts and a couple of emails from the creators of the film. And I think it over delivers in the size, the scope of the story, the cast in particular. On the negative side for things, it's not reinventing the genre. It's not doing it like we've seen movies like this before that are kind of covering a long period of time. The montage biopic, it's trying to like lean in heavily into she did all of this as a single mother, and it's a little bit too on the nose. Like it keeps reminding you, remember, she's a single mother. That's her son. Look at him growing up. Look at how good he turned out, despite this very unconventional life. It's pretty on the nose, and I think anytime, show your message, tell a story that communicates it, but you don't need to keep pausing to tell me your message. And I don't know enough of the history on some of this, but it's kind of designed to make this whole organization, all of these characters, very forward-thinking and progressive on kind of everything. She's a single mother. She's cutting a new path for women, of course, in sports, and there plenty of women shouldn't be doing this, like kind of those stereotypical roles. And then likewise, they're very progressive on integrating black people into sports and things like that. Maybe that was true. I don't know, but it felt a lot like we're just presenting our protagonists as very enlightened for the time. And most people of that time held a lot of very questionable beliefs. So it had, whether it was true or not, it came off a little bit phony, like we're trying to put people in a little bit too good of a light. To that point, and this next point I'm going to make might clarify where I'm kind of going with this, but anytime I watch a movie like this, I head over the Wikipedia page and I start like going through everybody's like, what really happened there? Did this really happen? And the movie basically picks people that it wants to be a hero and people that it wants to be a villain. And at one point in time, they have a character die. Like someone dies in the ring. And it's at the fault. There's choices made by two different people that are real people that they made bad choices that led to this person's death, and that's a real person. Only problem, this person that they just said died in 1950 or whatever, died in 2009. They did not die in the ring. This did not happen. So they fabricated someone dying in the ring and blamed it on two people. And maybe there's some alternative event that happened that was like this, but you're watching a movie that, as best I can tell, doing a quick look at, like, that person did not die, and this movie claimed those two people were responsible for her death in the ring 60 years before she actually died. And when you're kind of doing that, this person's a hero, that person's a villain, you're kind of fabricating things. I understand enhancing things for the drama of the story, and when you're it's based on a real life event, but you have to adapt things, simplify things. You take two events and you merge them together to make a narrative that you can tell in a story. I understand the compromises that have to happen in order to convert something to the big screen. If you concocted two people kind of murdered someone. It's not murder. It's manslaughter. Kind of sports manslaughter. Like, you concoct that and you blame two people for that. You're slandering two people. And you're doing something like eliminating the legacy of the rest of this person's life. And that's what I mean, like, when I say that it puts certain people in a really good light on all of these social issues that nowadays we'd all like say that you should hold those positions. Did these people back in 1945 actually hold that? Or is that part of, we're presenting these people as the heroes and these people as the villains to kind of create a little bit more, it's a more cinematic narrative of all the ways that they overcame obstacles, including sexism, racism, and people that are so corrupt they don't care that they killed people in the ring. But not all of that is true. And that stuff that kind of almost leaves like a bad taste in my mouth on a movie that, just watching the movie, it's very effective. And you're watching it and you're getting growing anger towards certain characters. You're setting up who the villains are. So when you get to our final wrestling match that you like care about the stakes and the victory, and the final match is a real match that happened and that there's debate still to this day exactly what happened. They concoct a narrative here that it's like, here's who clearly won. Fair enough. Like you're telling a story from one person's perspective, but also, when you put the weight of a murder, manslaughter, and sporting event, accident, death that could have been prevented if these two people had not been irresponsible, you put it on two people and you put stakes in that final match and the final resolution that, I don't know, it's like, that's a really bad thing to do if there's not more historic evidence for it. If someone has read the books, knows the history on this, am I missing something, or did they like fabricate a murder? I keep saying murder. It's not murder. Did they fabricate two people being responsible for a death? Like, that's a really bad thing to do just to make your movie more dramatic and create the villains in your story when history's normally a little bit more complex than that. Anyway, I'm lingering on something because it really like stood out to me of like, but that didn't happen. Like, that did not happen. So put it all together. I have a movie that I love sports movies, and in particular when they kind of like help you learn about something that you weren't aware of. This isn't a window of time that we've made a movie about before. So having something that kind of, even if it's simplified, even if we're amplifying things a bit too much, like we're looking at a window of time that most people have never thought about before. that's kind of cool. I thought it was very effective, and one of the reasons it's effective because apparently they fabricated a few things. Besides that, I really enjoyed the film. Overall, it's a B+ on the entertainment scale, a 7.5 out of 10. And if you like sports movies, give it a try. It's worth checking out, in particular if you're a fan of professional wrestling or any of the familiar faces that are in this movie. I might have bumped my score up on this one just a little bit more if I hadn't read Wikipedia afterwards. I really did think it was effective, and I really was frustrated that they fabricated a death. So, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.